If only I had spidey senses, so I can tell when something's wrong. Oh, and I'm in search to protect this heart from breaking into pieces. Where's my hammer? Where's the shield? All the strength to carry the weight of the world. Fly high into the sky. I'll catch you if you fall. I'll catch you if you fall. Fly high into the sky. I'll catch you if you fall. I'll catch you if you fall.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Snap Decisions. I, of course, am your host with the most, your Snap DJ. And I am coming to you at nighttime on a Tuesday, a little later than I usually do the pod. But, of course, you know, things happen, work happens, stuff happens. And so here I am, and hope you are doing well and having a great week wherever you may be out there, however you are listening. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to you all for giving your time to listen to the show. I really, really appreciate it, and I want to get that message across for a few reasons, and that I'll get into, you know, a bit later in the show today. But let me start off by saying that I really had some things I wanted to say, and it's very funny how things work out, because there are certain podcasts from other creators that I always listen to, and one of them since the very start of playing Marvel Snap, as I'm sure many of you probably have as well, but one of them is Cozy and Alex. I've listened to them for a long time. I've been a fan of their show, and I've listened to it for a good amount of time, and ever since really I started playing Snap. And as I was coming home today, I listened to it. I listened to their latest episode, and it's crazy because, you know, I would never, ever put myself on that plateau with those two, because, you know, they're great at what they do. I do it in a different way, and I'm obviously probably a good amount of years older than both of them. So I have a different perspective about the things I do. But it's funny how when you think of a plan of things that you want to talk about and something that you want to say, and then all of a sudden you hear something similar on another podcast, especially on a podcast from them, it's kind of crazy. And so I listened to it, and I heard what they had to say, and basically, long story short, they are looking to change up their pod. And, it was kind of a little bit of a shocker, because I really never thought I'd hear them say that. But I guess what it is really is, I guess it's just the state of Snap. And I guess it's just the state of the game right now that they're doing that. And, you know, when I think back about the week, or the past week, I've tuned into Regis Kilbin, who's another one I tend to watch pretty faithfully, and he was playing the Marvel Mystic game, that new mobile game that just came out not that long ago, on his stream. So I'm like, boy, oh boy. That they looks like they're, now Alex and Cozy said that obviously they're still going to cover like the card of the week, and so they're still going to talk Marvel Snap, but they are discussing plans to change up their show. And it's ironic because, isn't that ironic? Don't you think? Because I had kind of a very similar thought. And my reasoning behind it, and it could be a similar reason to the way that they're thinking, is because, I and I think it is kind of similar to the way they're thinking. And if you guys listen to them, you'll maybe know what I'm talking about here. But I enjoy doing this. And I told you guys this last week. I just enjoy doing the show. I enjoy doing the podcast. I enjoy talking about Snap and stuff like that. But more so, I enjoy talking about comics. I enjoy talking about superheroes. I enjoy doing all that stuff because that's what, that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy the most. Is talking about that kind of stuff with you guys, because what it does for me is it brings back memories. Memories of a much simpler time when I was a kid. Going around with my red towel draped across my back and pretending I could fly and I was Superman, or, getting some of those Ben Cooper hideously ugly masks and wearing the when I was probably about 5, probably even 5 or 6, I can remember my parents got me a Ben Cooper Spider-Man costume. Man, that mask was hideous. It was not represented well, but they didn't have much they could work with back then. But it, and made of plastic and stuff like that. And I would leave the Spider-Man shirt and I would put it underneath my pajama top. And I would button up my pajama top, and when I wanted to become Spider-Man, I would pull the buttons open on my pajama top, and there would be the Spider-Man costume underneath. So that's what brings me joy in doing this show. And so my message that I'm going to convey is that mobile games, as I've told you, mobile games come and go. They don't last forever. It's just a fact. After hearing Cozy and Alex talking a little bit about this kind of the state of Snap that they went over today a bit, a lot of what they said made sense. And we as players of this game are starting to see things that we don't like. There's more and more people, I think, that are leaving the game every day because of the monetization, because they're just getting monetized out of the game. And look, I get it. I completely 100% understand that. I am not, my wife and I are about as middle class as you can get. We struggle to pay our bills like everybody else. And, so yeah, it's I get it. That $10 that I pay for the season pass sometimes wasn't easy to do because I could use that for other things. And now, if you're going to want the other cards, and obviously when everybody kind of saw what Fantastic Car was, it's a pretty good card. And so if you want that now you're going to go to $20. And that's a lot. It's a lot for people to handle. We had the Kid Omega debacle, and who knows if they're going to continue to do that. The thing is, we're not hearing from anyone that they're not. No one's coming out and saying that, no, you don't need to worry about that. We're not going to do that. And Cozy and Alex brought up, I guess Alex mentioned that, he used to have some connections with, I guess, I don't know if it was with Second Dinner or with, I guess people that maybe he spoke to. And he said, when he goes now and he looks at some of these developers and stuff, and he looks on Twitter, they're no longer with Second Dinner anymore. So, and what they mentioned was, what happens if a guy like Glenn, who obviously, is very passionate about the game, and came from Magic the Gathering, what would happen if all of a sudden he decided to step away and he decided to go elsewhere? It's a big hit. And so, but, in any case, going back to what my plans are. First of all, this kind of all came about with me because, again, like I said, I enjoy doing this at least right now anyway, I have more fun doing this and just chatting with you guys than I do sometimes playing the game. And I'm sure you've listened to, those of you that have listened to me for a while and have listened to some of the episodes, you can tell when I'm frustrated with it. It's not hard to tell. And it's been a bit of a source of frustration. And really, games shouldn't be that. And I've said it's kind of a story for myself over the course of time playing video games. And games that frustrated me, I just would stop playing. One of the earliest ones was Friday the 13th. I'm a huge fan, but I bought that NES game, and holy God, it frustrated the hell out of me because it was just too hard. And figuring out the patterns of going back and forth, but not only that, but just it was just too hard to when you did confront Jason, and it was just too hard to beat it without going through this cycle of pressing buttons constantly for almost 30 minutes straight. And I just got to the point where this isn't worth it. So I'm not at that point with Snap. However, like I said, I enjoy doing the other stuff on this podcast. And so what that's going to mean for the future of my show is that I guess maybe in a little way, like Cozy and Alex are going to change things up. I'm changing some things up too. And I'm obviously still going to, it's still a Snap-based podcast. I'm still going to talk about, the new card. Like today, we're going to talk in Comics Corner about Human Torch and things like that. But I love that part and that segment of it too, because I get to be passionate about characters that I grew up with, characters that I loved as a kid. I'm still obviously going to talk about the cards and where I stand for the week and all that kind of stuff. But I've incorporated some different things in the show. And, to go along with the DJ stuff that I come from and that I do, I'm just going to switch it up a little bit. Now I had that call-in segment and, I wasn't getting a lot of questions these last couple of weeks. And look, I get it. There's no real incentive for any of you guys to do that. I was giving away a gold pass every now and then, but now you can't really do that anymore with the way the shop is set up. So, I get it. There's not really much incentive to do it. So, I wasn't getting much. So last week I had to kind of change things up, but so what I'm going to end up doing, for that particular segment, if I don't happen to get anything, is I'm going to go to, again, more like a DJ format. So, I'm going to go and I'm going to start to do somewhat of a countdown. And I know those are pretty popular. Like I watch YouTube channels and stuff like that. Cody Leach comes to mind. I like him a lot because I'm a big horror fan too. And he does a lot of movie reviews and horror movie reviews and stuff. But he always does like countdown videos. Like my favorite, he went through like Nightmare on Elm Street. He's a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. So my top Nightmare on Elm Street films and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what? That would work very well in like a DJ style format because, when I was DJing, we would have a top 10 countdown or a top 20 countdown that we would do once a week on the show. And we'd count down the top 20 or top 10 songs. I'd talk about the artist a little bit and I'd play the music, right? And so that kind of fits with what I'm doing. So today's show, I'm going to do my top Superman films. Now, I know you're gonna say Superman has nothing to do with Marvel Snap. You are correct. But it's something that I enjoyed. It's something that I went to see and I was excited about. And then I, of course, did my review on it, which I don't know if you guys listened to. I know it didn't get a lot of reviews because it wasn't really or a lot of listens because it wasn't really Marvel related. But those of you who did, I thank you. And so I enjoyed it, and that's what I want to convey in this show more than anything else is the fact that I want to make sure that this stays something that I enjoy. Because if I convey enjoyment, if I convey that I'm having fun with stuff, let's go over the the changes that I've made other than that. So, as I said, the one segment will be a countdown or a call-in, depending on obviously what I get. There's plenty of countdown type things you could do, not only with movies but characters and comic books and things like that. So it's very easy to just fit stuff in. Top hits of the week is going to be basically my weekend snap. So again, going along with the theme of the DJ stuff. So that'll be, some of the more fun games maybe that I had. Again, some fun decks that I was able to maybe win with, or do well with, and things like that. And as you can see, I eliminated the what's in the shop stuff. I eliminated that for reasons that are personal to me, but also for reasons that I think that a lot of you guys are probably concerned with as well. And then of course, Comics Corner, not going to change much. Again, that's of course today, obviously the Human Torch, and then I'm going to have the comic pull list is what I call that, and basically that's what I'm reading for the week. Which I do have a DC comic now that I picked up on Amazon Kindle, and I'm reading. And then of course we always will finish up with the MCU minute, because it's fun to talk about that kind of stuff. It concerns the Marvel series and stuff that are coming out. Of course, the movie, which Fantastic Four is only a week, 9 days away. 9 days away from seeing that, and so obviously you'll get my review from that. But in any case, like I said, it was just weird hearing two of, if not the two biggest creators in this game talking about how they might be moving away a little bit, and they were even chatting about how they think that that the game could turn it around. They were talking about a new mode, like draft mode, which I really don't see happening. And I don't really think they think it will either. At this point, just try how they could just try to get players back that left, and then hearing them saying that that they're going to continue obviously to do the show, because again they love to do it, and they are going to come up with some different things to talk about on there. And that was the idea that I had earlier today, thinking about it last night when I posted this post. Because moreover than anything else, I want to continue to do this. I want this show to live on. And, and again, that's why I reach out and I say thank you to all of you that have listened over these past few years and commented and sent over questions, and all of you who have guested on the show. I hope that there's some people out there that I had on my show that listen. I know there are, Glazer being one, and Gunny T, and Nick the Greek Geek, and several others. And I'm appreciative of that. But I got to know a lot of people, and a lot of great people that I certainly call friends, that I may have never met in person through this. So one of the questions that I did receive from someone this week was interesting, because it's about podcasting itself, and about about doing a podcast. I appreciate that kind of a question, because it's interesting for me to talk about, because I've done a few of them now. I've done my wrestling one for a long time, many years, and 6-7 years now I think we're going on, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to talk about that. And I really enjoy it, and and so to continue to have this go on, where we may get to a point where the game is not going on anymore, and as scary as it may seem, and as sad as it is, the realization of mobile games not lasting forever is a thing. And I mentioned that in last week's show and the show before. I've played many of them that have lasted 2-3 years and gone away, and so I am going to start this process. And again, I will still be, chatting about the same topics that I usually do, and it will be based upon the new cards that come out every week, and of course then previewing the next season and the data mines and doing that kind of stuff. That will all still be the case, but I'm also gonna kind of transition into doing different things a little bit in case it should come to a point where I'm going to be mostly just talking about comic books and movies and games, video games, and toys and things like that. That is all part of my childhood, and that is all part of the stuff that I've carried with me throughout the years. And so if it does indeed come to that, then, I want to make it an easier transition. And, you guys can come in on all that as well, and you guys can all let me know, what is something that you enjoy hearing about? What are things that you, and I kind of got some of that from the call-in segment, because I could see like the questions and things like that. So, so that's where you all come in, and you can all respond and let me know. And I already asked the question. I put it out there in Discord. I put it out there in a couple other places. And, but yeah, I'm just looking for kind of honest feedback, because, that's what I said. We really don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know what's going to happen tomorrow with the game, what's going to happen in 6 months. I really don't know. But when you hear another podcast from two of the biggest creators that do this, then, and you hear them kind of, seemingly making some plans. And then when you're seeing another big podcaster in Regis starting to now move on to other Marvel content, it starts to kind of sink in that, maybe it's just, and again, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the state of the game here shortly, because I did have that planned, but you're starting to see that the game is, the game isn't very varied anymore. It's very, it's getting a little monotonous. Now we're just getting buff decks everywhere. It's just that the same type of decks, and everybody just playing the same kind of decks. Right now it's high Evo that everybody's playing, and so it's just it's getting a little boring, I guess, to some people, and rightfully so. So, but so yeah, I kind of wanted to start on that. And like I said, just stay tuned. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna continue to, like I said, to chat about the things that I find joy in, whether it be comics, whether it be merch. I'm sitting here with a Spider-Man 1977 Marvel Legends Hasbro figure, and this is from that Spider-Man show that was on television back when I was 7 or 8 years old, and watching Nicholas Hammond play a college-age Peter Parker, when I just went back and watched the whole series on YouTube, which is out there. So yeah, it's things like that. The nostalgia of it all that brings back memories of stuff. Growing up with your friends and and doing these kind of things, playing games like D&D when D&D first came out, all that kind of stuff. It just brings back, and I think that's really what this superhero stuff does. When I went to see Superman, the reason I loved it so much is because it brought back a lot of memories. It brought back a lot of memories of when I first saw the original movie in 1977, 78 with my dad. And how that it still kind of resonates with me over all these years. And I can go back and watch it and still enjoy it, even though it's campy. But that was the first time that I saw him on a big screen, and it made an impression. But that's what this is. Comic books, things like that. It's nostalgia. It brings you to a happy place, and it makes you remember the joy that you had from all of that. And I think that's when they make a game like this, that's what they're hoping for. That'll keep you coming back, because it's bringing you a sense of nostalgia. It's kind of like when I used to play World of Warcraft, and I played that for years and years, and how they brought back WoW Classic. Well, why do you think they do that? They do it because it brings back players like myself who had played through every single expansion, but yet when they came out with Classic, we went and we made a new character, we rolled a new character, and we started over. Even though I've seen it all, I remember it all because I made so many characters when the game first came out that I remember the first sections of you leveling up from level 1 to 20. I remember them like the back of my hand, and there was no new content. It was the same, but you play it for the feelings. You play it for the nostalgia of it all. And so that's what I kind of hope that you get that from listening to my show. I hope it does bring that sense of some nostalgia to you, because I know everybody has it. And if you're playing Snap, you are a comic book fan in one way, shape, or form. You may not read them, but you're a fan of Marvel. You're a fan of some of the characters, maybe all of the characters. You're a fan of something Marvel, whether it be as recent as the MCU or as far back as watching the animated series that were out from the 1960s, or watching some of the TV shows that were on, like Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno's Incredible Hulk. Whatever the case might be, however you were introduced to it, it brings you back. It brings nostalgia, and again, like I said, that's usually a sense of joy for a lot of people. So, again, I just wanted to start out with that kind of comment. I know it went on for a bit, but I wanted to start out with that because I was really surprised to hear a similar thing from Cozy and from Alex, that they're they're going to do stuff to change up their pod. They're going to keep the pod going because they like doing it. Very similar to what I was thinking. But they're going to change it up a little bit. And so, but I think it's smart at this point because, like I said, nobody really knows, the future. Nobody really knows. And I think more than any time that there was before, I think people are a lot maybe skeptical about the future of Snap. And so I just wanted you all to know that I'm not giving up on what is pleasurable or what is pleasurable to me, just because the game might not be around. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to whether the game goes by the wayside, and I'm going to continue. The name's not going to change, obviously. It's a phrase anyway. I'm using Snap in it, but it's a phrase. But I'm gonna obviously just start the process a little bit of changing it up, and just in case, just to see what happens in the future. So, and I would encourage any of you that listen to podcasts, or that anyone that is playing this game, to really think about what it is that you want out of it. I know a lot of people, the people from Snap on this, Ben and Ree and Lauren are pretty much done with the monetary side of it. They're going to try to be free to play. And if you feel like that's what you got to do, then certainly by all means, then you got to do it. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to let's talk a little bit about the state of the game itself, and why people are kind of getting this. More and more when I'm looking at the creator Discord, which I have attached to my my Snap Decisions one. You're seeing more and more questions about monetization, questions about not being honest, questions about rewards and stuff like that, and why things weren't given out properly. So basically, you're seeing a lot of negative questions, questions about like bugs and why bugs aren't being fixed, and they're all legit. They're all absolutely legit questions. And I think that more and more you're seeing, I'm seeing obviously, and on the socials, where more and more players and stuff like that are coming out and saying they've had it, that they're done. There was finally, I was shocked. How many weeks in this pod did I talk to you guys about bots, cheater bots, having a hard time getting through the 80s? Well, now it's starting to get to the devs, and people are saying, "Hey, what's going on here? Why is this different? Why is it so hard now? Why am I getting matched up against players that are 3 times lower than me in collection level? Why am I, I am honestly now playing people that are in the 11,000 level. So, I was playing people that were below me, but I mean, my collection level is pretty high. I'm like 43,000 in and around there. But I am now playing people that are 11,000, 10,000, 12,000. And I mean, the bottom line is, guys, you know why that is? Because people are quitting. The people aren't playing the game anymore. So they're matching you up against whoever you can. They don't want, the last thing they're going to want is to have people start awaiting queues. Because if they end up having to institute a queue where you're sitting and sitting and sitting and waiting for a match, you're going to have mass people leaving the game. So, yeah, the gameplay itself, as I mentioned, it's, while there are some powerful cards, Mr. Fantastic, obviously very good. Human Torch today, I'm sure I haven't played with him yet, but he's going to be amazing. But when you look at them, what are they good in? They're good in the same shells. They're good in the buff deck. They're good in surfer decks. They're good in high Evo, right? So they're all the same cards in the same types of decks. Now, the developers might want to start to see certain decks played, right? A lot of people were complaining because they liked High Evo, and High Evo is all but dead. Couldn't play that deck 2 months ago. It was terrible. But now, it's one of the most powerful decks in the game. And that's because of these new cards that are coming out. Now, the rest of the month, the cards don't look so great. You had Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic, the 2 best cards of the month, come out in week 1 and week 2. But after this, there aren't a ton of good ones. The Thing isn't great. Invisible Woman looks like it might be okay. Invisible Girl looks like it might be okay. But again, it's kind of a niche card. We already got Herbie. So, and then all we really have left is Mole Man and the Thinker that are coming via that mode. And they don't look all that good. So, that's, So the state of the game, at least from my standpoint, is I'm playing all people that are crazy low collection level. And the person who asked a question in a Discord was a player that was low collection level. And I don't blame them for being mad. They're playing against people with collection levels 4 times the size as theirs. And it's almost not fair. Now, a lot of times when you're coming up against them, you'll get surprised because what they play doesn't make any sense, which kind of takes you aback a little bit. I was running into it yesterday where, I'm seeing people playing like what looked to be high Evo. But then the next thing I know, they have a copycat, or they have they have something completely off the wall. But then I'm thinking, and then I go up and look and I see, 12,000, 14,000 collection level. And I'm like, they're just playing with the good cards they have. They can't complete a deck with all the cards that they would want to because they just can't. So they're just playing with cards that they think are good. And, so that's what somebody played me with a Thanos deck. But it was a Thanos deck unlike any I've ever seen because they weren't playing with the like Strange Supreme. They probably didn't have it. Or the other cards like that. They're playing with what they have. Which makes for a tough time trying to figure the deck out. And in many cases, you may slip up and lose because you don't really know what they're doing. It's almost as if you're playing a bot in a way because the bots are kind of playing things all herky-jerky, but even bots are playing like a deck type that you can kind of see. And then the other thing is bots themselves. Now, you could still tell what they are because they do have the same collection level as you. But as you get up in level, now I'm into the 80s again, and they are much less frequent, and you will end up playing them where they will be much, much better as you go. So in the 80s and 90s, they don't play stupid. They start playing a little bit better, regardless of what they're playing. I got played by one with a zoo deck, and they played everything perfectly right. I won, but barely, but they were playing everything perfectly right. They didn't load up one particular lane. They didn't, they didn't play dumb areas or play dumb cards that would blow up their other cards or something, So they get progressively better, and so that's what people are, they're asking and they're wondering about is, what's going on here. So there's that, but. The rest of it is, these game modes. I think a lot of people are over the game modes a little bit. Sorry. And again, now we're getting high voltage for 4 days with pretty much garbage. There is no incentive or reason for me and many other players that have talked about it to play the mode. None. The rewards are not good. And if you're like me, even if they give away a premium mystery variant or something, and I see they're doing a Discord thing again. Remember how they gave us the Spider-Man, the armored Spider-Man on Discord, like a Discord quest? You had to play so many games or something like that. They're trying to get people probably back to playing on Steam again because Steam lost countless players. They're getting you to play with certain things and certain cards. But it's, but again, there's no incentive to play it. There's nothing good. So why would you want to waste your time playing high voltage for pretty much next to nothing? And like I said, I'm 700 gold complete as far as variants. Now they just came out with a brand new album today, which I'll talk about in a bit, but, I'm complete with those, so I'm not going to get any of them. I'm going to get stupid avatars most of the time, and even if it's a premium, there's a pretty good chance I get an avatar there too. So, and someone asked them about Diner, and they just said that they're looking for a way to bring Diner back, which I didn't think Diner was that great to begin with. And then we're going to get the new one at the end of the month, so we'll have to see how that ends up working itself out, but. And then, of course, card acquisition, they did say, and I posted it, that Kid Omega and Cobra, someone asked them, will Kid Omega and Cobra show up in the token shop at 3 p.m. on their release date, or will we have to wait for them to cycle through with the other cards? And then it says the answer was they will be released into their respective snap packs at the daily reset, 12 p.m. Pacific on July 16th. So that is that tomorrow? Yeah. So that's tomorrow. So Kid Omega will be available in snap packs as of tomorrow. But, again, the acquisition, while it got better with snap packs, the problem becomes, like for me, I have a crazy big supply of tokens that I could get the Series 5 thing every single time with no problem and then earn it back. I'm hovering around 52, 53,000, and I'm staying at that point. So, but what is acquisition like for everybody else is the question. Not for me. Because once I get Kid Omega tomorrow, I'll be collection complete. So it's not for people like me or people who are collection complete. It's for the other people who aren't. So has it really improved? Are we going to see series drops anymore? I am skeptical about that. The other thing I have to say is, what about all of just the general things in this game that need to be fixed? The bugs are terrible. Terrible. Just so many. And we're not seeing much of that. Yes, they're going to do a patch tomorrow, which is going to come out at the same time as an OTA. But I'm starting to get a feeling that there is just so many bugs in this game right now that I don't know that they can fix it all in one patch. I would almost be happy if they did one game patch where they focused on nothing but bugs and didn't even worry about card changes. And then what about, people are asking about a developer map. I hate to be the one to say this, guys, but I don't think we're getting that anymore. And that could be for a lot of reasons. Because they maybe just don't have anything planned, which is the saddest one, or they don't want to be forthcoming on it because the long-term plans maybe aren't there. Just the little things that a lot of us have been asking for. A new board, for God's sake. A new background. Deck slots. These little things that would just make it better a little bit, and we're not even getting that. So, I'm the other podcast that I listen to. Like I said, Cozy and Alex, Snap Judgments, of course, Glazer. It's just Lauren and Ben doing Snap on this. Kier Nimbus doing the Infonaut. All, of course, are in our Snap Judgments League of podcasts. I listen to all those. And then I've listened to trying to think of some of the other pods that I've listened to. Just the content creators. Binks I watch a lot. I listened to the pod with Super Tech God and It's Guest Gaming. But they're all kind of, I think they're all kind of feeling the same way. And so the state of the game isn't great, and I think a lot of us thought that were very excited for the changes to the acquisition, and we thought that it was really going to bring people back and it was really going to change things. But then, and it did, we had that feel-good moment after the big crash happened. I call it the big crash when Snap went down, right? And we had that feel-good moment where they gave us all of that stuff, right? That was a gesture of good faith, and they gave us all that, and then we had that. So then, and then of course they did the Snapbacks things, and then a lot of people were even looking at coming, content creators who hadn't played the game in forever came back for that, but then it just all got kind of washed away by this Omega stuff and by the monetization of things and by the responses from Second Dinner that people got that they just did not expect. So, yeah, so that's, I'm going to leave it there because there's really not much more to say. It's just all, at this point, it's all facts. There's no speculation. There's no, it's pretty much just what everyone is seeing. And so that ties in with my initial thought about changing up the show a bit. And yeah. So there you go. That was a long one, but that is the spin for the week. I would love your feedback about how I'm going to change it. Again, if there's any kind of feedback, anything that you guys would like to hear on a weekly basis talked about and stuff like that, please send me the comments and let me know. I would absolutely appreciate it. So, okay. I did get a couple of questions after I put down that I was changing things up, and I did receive a couple things, I think, here. This one is a player who this came from Twitter, and I read out a question from him before, and I butchered the poor guy's name. I kind of knew I would, but he corrected me. He is Dutch, by the way. He said in English you don't use the O-E-N. So his name is spelled Jeroen. So you don't use the O-E-N. So it's just Jer. Or just Jer. And the last name is French. You don't pronounce the R. So Pierre. P-I-R-E or Pyre. Which is how we say that. So I'm so sorry I butchered your name, dude. But basically, he wants to know if I've read Elfquest comics. I never have. I know a lot of people who were into it, but I never have. I never had. So I can't say whether I liked it or not. It could definitely be something I might look to just check it out. I'm always open to checking out new titles and giving them a shot. Usually I'll try to look up a book and I'll try to start it at the very beginning, so I get to know like all of the characters and everything like that right off the bat, and so yeah, definitely something I will give a look to, and thanks again for reaching out, and I appreciate you being patient with me in the way I pronounce your name. I feel bad when I do that, So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But I will definitely look into that, and I will definitely check it out. Now this one is from Reviews from the Tub, who he sent me a bunch, and I appreciate you. How does one get into podcasting? I have an idea for a show, but no idea where to record it or how to broadcast it. Well, first of all, the way I did, and I give all credit to my oldest daughter, who reached out to me during COVID and said, "Dad, you should do podcasting." And I said, "Oh my God, there's no way. I don't know how to do this technology stuff." And she's like, "Dad," she's like, "it's an app." She's like, "They have an app that you could use. It's through Spotify, and it's super, super easy." So actually at that time, I'm wrong. At that time, was it through Spotify? It was Spotify for podcasters, but then they changed it. I know things went through some changes. But yeah, I think it was Spotify right off the bat, but she was right. It was super easy. I was able to go in, I did an intro, and my first ever podcast that I ever did was for my geek Facebook group, which, by the way, any of you are welcome. If you guys are on Facebook, and I know it's not a medium that gets used a lot much anymore, but if you ever want to come to a very cool little group, I have a group there that I started a long time ago with a bunch of friends, and it's called the Consortium for the Greater Geek, which is a lot of fun. We go in there and we just chat. A lot of people just post like geek memes and stuff in it, but we'll go in and we'll post stuff about movies. We'll post stuff about, clips and stuff like that. I try to put in clips, the movie trailers and things like that. But it's just a fun little group. And, it's just a good bunch of people. Nobody's in there like spamming and being jerks. Because if they do, they get kicked out. But that was the first one I started. My very first podcast was that. I did a podcast for the consortium. And I went on and I recorded it. I recorded a little intro and I recorded it. And that's the very first one I ever did. And then of course I got, I was always a wrestling fan, right? So I was watching wrestling, and while I was watching wrestling on TV once, I saw a stream that this guy was doing where he basically commentates along with the show. And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. So I went in there and I watched him. He was entertaining. It's kind of like looked like around my age, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years younger or so. And he was a British dude by the name of Wrestling Daze, D-A-Z-E. And he's entertaining. He's funny. He was doing a lot of stuff. So I went in there and I watched, and then I'm looking at, I'm inside of his chat, right? So I'm seeing all the people chatting, and here I met a friend of mine, Jeff, who is the one who I am now doing my wrestling podcast with, and we kind of got together. He was doing a podcast of his own, so he invited me. We got to talking about that, and he invited me on his, and we just discussed things. We kind of hit it off, and we thought, you know what? Why don't we do a wrestling podcast? So then the consortium one just kind of went away, and it wasn't doing that anymore. So then I went on and started the Insiders, which we were big fans of the NWO, obviously, and the Outsiders. So we call ourselves the Insiders, and we've been doing that for 7 years. That's on, and YouTube, and we were on Facebook, and we broadcast on there, and we were doing like watch-alongs too. We were doing kind of the same thing that other guy did. But then we found out that so many people do it. And that there's not a lot of room for growth in that area. So then we kind of went away from the mainstream. We were doing WWE pay-per-views. We were doing all that. And then we went away from the mainstream. And now we do a lot of just mostly TNA wrestling, which a lot of people didn't do. So that's how we kind of changed ourselves. But we started off with just audio. We weren't doing it. And now we're on screen. We're live on the streams and stuff like that. So that was quite an adjustment and things. But yeah, like to answer your question, I would still, if you're going to start off in audio, I would still use Spotify, because the cool thing about them is they make it very easy to record. Well, you're going to need to find yourself because they used to have a recording thing built in. They don't anymore. So now I use an app on my iPhone, which I'm recording with right now. And so you could find a lot of those apps that are out there. Now I do pay for this one, but it's a good one because it allows me to record the show, and then I could go back and I could edit it. I could put clips in it, which I put that music from Elevate the Sky, who he so kindly lets me use before every one of my show, the superhero song. By the way, shout out to my friend Scott, who is working on a new album right now. So for those of you who have found him through me, go and check out his new music. It's very, very good. And he's kind of going back, and he's redoing one of his old synthwave albums. So if you're into synthwave, and I know I think I heard Lauren Whatever say that she is. Go and check it out. Scott's a great dude and a big geek, loves all this kind of stuff too. But yeah, I would find yourself a good recording app that you could do like some editing and stuff with, in case you make mistakes or in case you want to put in clips or whatever. And then but use Spotify, because Spotify will then share your pod with other apps. So it'll put it out on Apple. It'll put it out on other podcast apps, and it shares it in other places. So that's what's good about it. So as far as getting into it, man, pick a topic that you love. Pick out something that you really, really enjoy, and that you could just talk about. You could freely talk about. I'll be honest. I don't script this. I know that there's some people out there that they are adamant on writing stuff down, thoughts, ideas, notes, this and that. I don't do any of that. I can't be bothered with it. This is off the cuff. I just talk. And I think a lot of people find that kind of weird, or they find it like, damn, like really, like all that stuff's just on the. But yeah, I don't script anything. Now, if it makes you more comfortable, you can. There's nothing absolutely wrong with that. But yeah, man, find yourself something that you enjoy, and don't make it be don't make it be something that you are going to absolutely have fun talking about. Don't make it something that you necessarily think that your audience might need to or have to hear. Because if you're not catering to yourself, and if you're not having fun with your show, you're not going to enjoy it. So, that's why I said, now I know that there are tons and tons of creators out there that do things way differently than me. A lot of them stream the game and stuff like that. And they're the ones that are making a little bit of money off of it, right? Or, people like KM Best who are talking about, decks all the time, or like Laser, that are doing stuff about decks and deck tips and cooking decks and high infinite ladder and all that. See, that's not me. That's not where I am in the game. And I'm not going to pretend that's me. Those guys do it so well. So I'm not, that's not what I want to do. I'm focused on this game because I like it because of the lore. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So focus on something that you enjoy, whether it be whatever in your life. I mean, I would have loved to have done a horror podcast, or specifically a Friday the 13th podcast, or, any number of things that I've loved along the way in my life. So, but yeah, you've got to pick a topic, pick a subject. I also did I did another one that was kind of short-lived, but this one was really fun. It was called I Lived the 80s. And myself and a good friend of mine used to do that, and that's how I met Scott. We had some musicians on there. We had some people that were in bands way back in the day, and so that was another one we did. We actually did audio for the longest time with that, and then we turned it into a YouTube thing. But unfortunately, we just couldn't continue it because my friend got a different job. He's a police officer, and we just couldn't get together to do it anymore. But it was a lot of fun, and all we really did in that was we talked about our memories. We just sat and we talked about going to an arcade when we were a kid, or some of the stuff we watched on TV, or music that we listened to, or malls that we hung around in. And I'm older than him, so it was a little difficult sometimes because he didn't grow up in exactly the same era that I did. But it was a fun time. So pick something fun, pick something that a good amount about, that you can just sit and talk, maybe without the use of a script, and you can just talk off the top of your head. And then, like I said, use Spotify to get your podcast out there. I would tell you to start off with audio. YouTube's tough. They really are. And YouTube is not the platform it used to be. Even us, with the insiders now doing it for 7 years, we never got a ton of, we have over 6,000, 7,000 subs to the channel. I mean, we've hit the 100,000 view mark, which is cool. But it's still not a thing. Especially if you're going to try to get into it to make money, that there is really not much there. And unless you hit it off really big, like Cozy, or they're few and far between. So if you're looking at it for that, then I would tell you to stay away from YouTube. Twitch seems to be the place to go nowadays, and not just for gaming, but for other things as well. Even if you just want to do a podcast where you want to be on camera and stuff like that. So there you go. I hope that helped. Number 2, favorite use of a song in a movie. Wolverine and Deadpool slashing their way down the street to Like a Prayer was great, but I think I have to pick Little Green Bag in the title sequence of Reservoir Dogs. R.I.P. Mr. Blonde. Reservoir Dogs is such a great movie. And I responded to him by saying, same movie, but Steelers Wheel stuck in the middle with you. Oh my God, what a scene that is, right? What a scene that is. When he's dancing around and it cuts off the person's ear and stuff like that. And you're hearing stuck in the middle with you. My favorite use of a song in a film. Holy. Oh, man. Wow. Jeez. I mean, I could go to some, but see, the songs that I could think of off the top of my head are going to be songs that are written maybe for the films. And I don't know if that's what you're looking for. I think you might be looking for like the use of a song inside a film or like a soundtrack to a film. Or you're like like that may have made a soundtrack for a film, but it wasn't necessarily made for the film. I could think of a real obscure one by a real obscure band. The song is by a band. Now, of course, it comes from a Friday the 13th film, part 4 to be exact. But the band's name is Lion. They were a metal band back in the 80s. And it's the one where Crispin Glover does the crazy dance to the song in the Friday the 13th movie. And it was just an insanely goofy and crazy part that he was dancing to this song during Friday the 13th. And I just thought it was just completely off the wall. And I have to look it up, so you're going to hear me typing. But I had to look it up, and for the longest time, I couldn't find it. I could not find it. It's called Love is a Lie. And I couldn't find it, and all of a sudden it appeared on iTunes. The album just popped on iTunes, and I'm like, oh my God, and I loved it. And I'd never heard it before. The entire album I liked. They also do a song in a movie called The Wraith, which is another one. But yeah, so that would be a very, very obscure one and an odd use of a song. But it went down as being one of the famous scenes in a Friday the 13th movie that ever was. And I'm going to look this up too, because The Wraith with Charlie Sheen, the song that opened up the movie called Where's the Fire by Tim Feehan was the name. This one has a lot of popular bands on here. Ozzy's on it. Honeymoon Suite is on it. Stan Bush, who did You Got the Touch for the Transformers, which there's a good one. There's an iconic song that, again, that song wasn't used for anything until I went to see the animated film of the Transformers. And, of course, the one that everybody remembers, it, they killed off Optimus Prime. But You Got the Touch. And Stan Bush is the one that made that. But Where's the Fire? Completely unheard of song by a not that heard of artist that was just used amazingly well in that film. So, but again, they may have been written for the actual films. So give me, it's a very good question. I'm going to think on this, because I'm sure I'm going to come up with one, but I don't want to take up everybody's time here. I'm already over an hour on this show. So give me some time to think of it, and I'll get back to you. But thank you for the questions. I really, really appreciate it. And again, guys, if you are up to it, send me your questions about just about anything. Like I said, I answered a question about starting a podcast, and I answered a question again about music. So anything you want to ask the old man, please reach out and do so. All right, so we're going to move on because I don't want to have you guys on here, for 2 hours straight. So we're going to move on, and we're going to go to the countdown here, and because I'm going to do my Superman movie countdown. I'm not going to stay, I'm not going to take forever to do it, but I am going to do it. So we're going to count down the my favorite Superman movies of all time, and I thought it was good. I am going to see it again this coming Saturday with some friends, and because I really did enjoy it, and I'm anxious to go see it again. So I'm going to go down my list, and we're gonna do a countdown of all of the Superman films, and I'm going to tell you which ones I liked the best. So, all right. So let's do. Let me see here. So I'm not going to go back to like the 1948 one or 1951 one. So let me see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 9. So we have 9. All right. So starting at number 9, and again, I'm not counting the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. I'm not counting the Zack Snyder's Justice League cut, the 5-hour epic that he did. I'm not counting those because they're redone films. I'm not counting either of those. So at number 9, now this is my worst of them all. I hate to do this to my boy Christopher Reeve, but Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, just really bad, man. The Gene Hackman couldn't save the film. Chris Reeve couldn't save the film. It was just reused footage in there as far as the flight scenes are concerned. The villain was Nuclear Man, which was so bad. They couldn't even. They were strapped to such a bad budget in this movie that they couldn't even film it in a city. They had to go and film it in Canada, and it's just bad. The premise of it is about Superman wants to rid the world of nuclear weapons. And so he just goes and he finds all of the nuclear missiles on the planet and puts them in this big giant net and hoists them all into the sun. And then, of course, the reaction on the sun ends up creating this Nuclear Man guy who ends up being the bad guy. And he ends up harming Superman at some point. He's not indestructible to it because of the powers that he got from the nuclear reaction in the sun. And then he ends up scratching him, and he ends up he ends up making him sick. And then so it's basically Superman, but he's sick. He can't. Oh, it was so weird. But this is the worst one for me. I very seldom ever watch this one, even if it's on TV. And I love the Christopher Reeve Superman stuff, but this one is the worst one of them. Don't necessarily. If you want to watch for a laugh, I guess you can maybe go and watch this one. But oh gosh, it's just not good. It's not good. So, all right, number 8. I'm gonna go with, because this film was such an utter disappointment for me, because of how much I looked forward to it. But number 8 is Justice League. Oh my God, what a hot mess. And again, a lot of these films were interfered with by the studios. So they interfered with them and they stepped in. And of course, Zack Snyder wanted to do this, and he did do most of it, but then Joss Whedon was called in. You remember Joss from Marvel doing the Avengers. So they got him to come in and redo it. And it was a convoluted piece of garbage. It was terrible. Now, I watched Snyder's cut, and I didn't think it was even all that much better. So I was looking forward to a Justice League film. We never got that before. Some were even saying that there were rumors years ago where it was supposed to be a Justice League of Michael Keaton's Batman, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and so on and so forth. They were gonna try to get that started. Never did, never happened. But this was just an utter disappointment and just a convoluted mess. And it was awful. It was just awful. So that's my number 8. I just was so disappointed in it, and I can't watch it anymore. I've tried. I watched the Snyder cut. I'm done with that movie. I am never going to watch it again. It was so horribly done to me that, I won't ever watch it again. So that's 9 and 8. Number 7, Superman 3. Again, Christopher Reeve. This one was just bizarre. I mean, it was cool in some parts. Like, he went back to his roots. So he went back to Smallville, and he met Lana Lang, there, who was kind of like, you know her from the comic books. She was kind of his early girlfriend, kind of the old flame, and stuff like that. And he was Superman at this time, and obviously, but he goes back and he meets the old bully of the school and everything there, and they have this get together and stuff like that. And there's things are happening, but the subplot of it was, and of all people, Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor is a brilliant comedian from the 1980s. Brilliant. One of the best. And having him in this just was like strange. And he didn't, you would think he would have played like a comedy character, but he really kind of wasn't. He was just this aloof, like scientist kind of guy that the bad guys in the movie end up stealing his computer. He comes up with this supercomputer thing, and the bad guys steal it. They basically kidnap him so he can run this computer, and this computer can end up shooting this green kryptonite ray at Superman. It was just bizarre. The best part of that film was when Superman fought himself in a junkyard. So when Superman was hit by this ray, it turned him into basically two different personas. There was this bad Superman that they made him look like he was just like, he had a 5 o'clock shadow. He wore like a black costume, and he basically like split into two. And then there was the good side of him, who was just weak old Clark Kent. And then he got into a big junkyard battle, and then he ends up they end up fighting each other. When the one half of him went the one way, and it was the dark Superman. He flew into a bar, and he's getting himself shit-faced drunk inside of the bar. It was just the most bizarre film ever. And I was like, oh my God. I remember seeing this in the theater, and after loving the first two of the Christopher Reeve Supermen, this was oh God, it was just so bizarre and weird that it had some cool little tiny moments. But this one goes in a bottom rung for me. So that's my number 7. Number 6 is going to be another one that was a gigantic disappointment for me, and that's Batman versus Superman. Man, the movie with Will Smith, and I'm going to forget the name of it, where it's like the zombie film that Will Smith was in, where he was the only one left in New York City and stuff, and he sees the billboard, because it's supposed to happen in the future, and he sees the billboard of the Batman and Superman logo, and then all of a sudden this movie got announced, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do Batman, Superman, this is what. Yeah, and then I got the hints that they were going to adapt Dark Knight Returns, which is one of my all-time favorite comic books ever. And I saw that that Affleck was going to do that, and they're going to adapt a little bit of that in it, where they're going to have Superman fight Batman, and they kind of looked, you saw then Ben Affleck in the armor, which came straight out of that book. I thought, oh my God, this movie's going to be amazing. Boy, was I wrong. Again, Zack Snyder has done some great things in the superhero genre. Watchmen, fantastic. I could watch that movie over and over again. But he has a tendency to do an opus and to make everything like Watchmen now, where he goes on and on and on and on and on and does these 3-hour films and sticks everything under the sun in it. And so not only did you have this plot line going on, which secondly, I hated Lex Luthor in the film. He was, that actor has played some good parts. He played the creator of Facebook. I forget his name now, but he played the creator of Facebook in that Facebook movie, which was very good. But he was a terrible Lex Luthor, terrible. And then you got introduced to Wonder Woman, which was cool, but there was no real reason for her to be in it, and so it just was so. And even the battle between the two of them, I thought was going to be so cool. I thought it was going to be the same as Dark Knight Returns, and it was just. And then it became. Then you had the thing with Martha. Oh, what a stupid idea. Stupid idea that they're fighting over Martha. Oh God, they're just and just just terrible, dude. It was such a letdown. And I remember walking out of it thinking like, oh my God, I so badly wanted to like this. And it was a hot mess. And then they bring in the death of Superman and they do Doomsday, and Doomsday looked like a cave troll from Lord of the Rings. He didn't even look like Doomsday, and Doomsday came from the body of General Zod. Like, what the, it was nonsense. It was absolute nonsense. So that's my number. I think we're at 6. So number 5 for me is going to be Superman Returns. And now this one was Brandon Routh who played Superman. The reason I like this so much is because, and I know a lot of people didn't, but I like it because this to me is the true sequel that we should have gotten for Superman 2. This can directly follow up Superman 2, skipping that 3, which was so bizarre, and 4. And this could have been the sequel that we could have gotten had Christopher Reeve still been doing the role. Because that's what it was. Brandon Routh played Christopher Reeve playing Superman. Because he was the same character. In fact, they even had the story built that way where he left Earth because he wanted to find out his Kryptonian roots. So he got back into that ship that he came in, he rebuilt it, and he left Earth and he went to see what happened with Krypton. And now he comes back to Earth again. And now, everything's changed because he was gone so long that everything's changed. Lois is now married. She has a kid. But then you later find out, spoiler, that it's Superman's kid. And you all remember, if you've seen Superman 2, they had a little tryst in the Fortress of Solitude, where that probably, I guess, happened. So in any case, but this one was a fun movie. I liked it. Brandon Routh was excellent at playing Christopher Reeve Superman. He just was. And then you had Kevin Spacey playing Lex Luthor. Now, Kevin Spacey's a great actor. Been in a lot of things. His Lex was a little bizarre, but his Lex was also very scary in the fact that he went from being kind of nice to like off the wall in like a split second. And he was kind of brutal, like very brutal. The intent of killing Superman. And again, he was still the real estate mogul Lex, right? He did this, he pulled this thing in the beginning of the movie where he bought this old woman's house and basically moved in with her because he was broke. He was sent to jail by Superman. That's the Gene Hackman one, was sent to jail. So again, it continued the story. So at this point, he was in jail. He was broke. He lost all his money. And so he had to figure out a way to get it. So he pulls this scheme where he moves in with this old woman, takes care of her and stuff like that. She dies, and then she gives him everything she had. So now he has all this money again. And then he goes to this thing, but then he finds this way where again he got pieces of kryptonite, meteors from Krypton, right? And then he uses this to basically kind of make like Superman made his Fortress of Solitude with a crystal, but instead what he does is he chucks it in the ocean and basically wants to rebuild Krypton, an island, and make it an island in the ocean. Well, what's it going to do if it does that? It's going to basically flood the planet, so he's going to wipe out all of these major cities and everything like that. So that was his plan. But in the meantime, finds out that it doesn't work because all of it, the islands are they're just decrepit, but they're also all filled with kryptonite, which he brings Superman to one of the islands, and Superman doesn't know they're filled with kryptonite. So basically, he's now completely weakened, and Lex beats the snot out of him, almost killing him. But I thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was actually pretty good. Moving on, my next one on my list is going to be Man of Steel. Man of Steel I really enjoyed. Now, this was a more grounded, if you could say grounded Superman. This was a darker Superman. Henry Cavill's Superman was. You had some weird moments in it. I thought the moment that Kevin Costner, who played his dad, when he stopped him from saving him and he put his hand out to say, "No, don't save me." Yeah, I just thought that was so weird. Just putting his hand up and then making him not save him from that big tornado and everything. And he just watches his own dad get sucked up and killed by a tornado. I don't know. there was a lot of things about that didn't come off as Superman to me, but I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. It had a lot of good action to it. And things like that. The fight scene at the end, of course, with Zod. I know a lot of people had said, that there's a Superman that didn't care about the damage he was doing. Wasn't going back and trying to save anybody or anything like that. It was basically just, he was in a rage and he was just wiping out the city and all that kind of stuff. But I enjoyed Man of Steel. I thought it was pretty good. Next up on my list is going to be... I'm going to go with Superman 2. So, Superman 2, of course, the sequel to Christopher Reeve's original. Now, Richard Donner ended up filming these both together. And that's why you have the Donner cut of it, because he filmed them back to back, which I didn't know until, probably about 10 years after it came out. But I, as a kid, loved this movie because I couldn't wait to see a sequel. And when this came out, and he had the villains from the Phantom Zone, you had General Zod, you had Non, and you have Ursa. That were the three that came to, and of course they all had the same powers that Superman did. It was very interesting to me. But there were very hokey parts in it, like when Superman decides, I'm going to give up my powers for Lois Lane because I want to be with Lois, and she finally discovers his identity. She goes out of her way because she was kind of thinking it was him, but then he kind of goofs up, and they're doing this article together on these honeymoon places in Niagara Falls that are trying to cheat people out of their money, and he accidentally falls. And he falls into a fire, and he puts his hand right in the fire, and that's when she finally figures it out. However, before that, she threw herself in the falls to make him come and save her, and of course he didn't. He found a way to get her when she kind of washed up on the edge of the beach. So, but she finally finds out he's Superman. So then he renounces his powers. He gets rid of his powers just as these three villains from Krypton end up coming to the Earth, and now he can't do anything about it because he's powerless. So that's kind of the gist of it. But I enjoyed it again when I was a kid. I liked it. If I watch it now, yeah, there's a lot of hokiness to it. But again, I still love the Christopher Reeve Superman is still high up there for me, and still one of my favorites. So that's my number 3. Number 2 is going to be James Gunn's, the newest one. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did. I thought it was a breath of fresh air for the comic book industry. I thought that it was a more comic booky Superman than we've ever, I think, seen. You could imagine yourself reading a comic and seeing this film. And so, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I did my review. You can go back and listen to it. But I'm going to go see it again. I liked it so much. And I think it was just absolutely phenomenal. That jumps up to my number 2. And number 1 is Superman 1978, the very first one with Christopher Reeve. And yes, it's mostly because of the nostalgia of it all. But I just absolutely loved that movie. And we got the whole thing. We got the origin story. We got the Krypton explosion. We got the rocket being sent with the child to Earth. We got Ma and Pa Kent finding him when he was a baby. The whole thing. We got him in high school and then into an adult. And then they kind of rushed it a little bit after that. But that's the definitive one for me. The John Williams score, who James Gunn and the person who did the music for this new one tried to emulate as best as they could, and pay tribute to, not emulate, but pay tribute to, is iconic. And so for me, that one is always going to be my number 1. So there you go. That is my Superman countdown. And if you can think of any ideas of a countdown that you would like me to do in a future episode, whether it be any particular type of Marvel films or anything else, video games, music, whatever the case might be, please let me know. Okay, we're moving on. And the next segment is going to be, we're going to go to... let's just go over my week in Snap a little bit quickly here. And of course, I am sitting at, I think I'm in the 80s. I think I'm 84 actually. So again, I'm right around that same spot where I usually end up stopping. The last couple of months, I end up stopping at like 84, 85. But I've been kind of steadily climbing a little more this month. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe this will be the month when I finally get back up to 90 after months of not getting back up there. But what I've been playing, I've been playing some High Evo. The one with the Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic is just a very good card. And, when you play High Evo with Mr. Fantastic and also play him with, you could even play it with Surge in your deck and have them both going at the same time for you. They're just both really, really good cards. So I've been playing a good amount of that. Conquest, I've gotten the first 3 missions done. So I'm on my way to an Orca card, which is actually cool because, being honest, I only have one Orca variant. I don't have really any cool Orca variants. So, but as far as the decks that I've been playing, I have been playing. I've tried this one. This is from Safety Blade. This one is a High Evo deck: Sunspot, Misty Knight, Hydra Bob. Of course, Mr. Fantastic first step, Surge, Armor, Juggernaut, Makari, Cyclops, Enchantress, Fantastic Card, and High Evolutionary. And it's just a bunch of littler cards. So you don't have Hulk, you don't have She-Hulk or anything like that. You do have some tech with Enchantress and Armor in here. And there are a lot of people playing Destroy, by the way. So Armor could come in handy with that. But then you just have these small cards just kind of getting big. And Fantastic Card is going to help them to make them bigger. Mercari's just going to come out in a lane, and Juggernaut just wins lanes. It's that simple. So I was playing a little bit with that one. I played some of this Galactus deck, which is Kitty Pryde, Mercury, Mr. Fantastic, First Steps, Surge, Hawkeye Hope, Luna Snow, Galactic Cannonball, Hellion, Galactus, and Goliath. This is just the one where you're trying to do the trick of where you're trying to load up and move everybody over to the Hellion lane, where you've got your opponent kind of in a bit of a jam, maybe with Mercury and stuff like that, and you're going to be able to just move out of there and hit them with that surprise Galactus at the end, and the Galactus might get a little bigger because of Galacta or stuff like that. So, but yeah, I won a few games with that. And then the other one that I had played was there is a new Thanos tech deck out, by the way, and this was on KM Best list. This is Strange Supreme, Mr. Fantastic First Steps, Sam Wilson Cap, Shadow King. Shadow King is the card that you want to be playing if you aren't playing these buff decks, or if you're having trouble against these buff decks, because he just wipes that out. So just a great card in the meta right now. Cosmo's in here, Mobius. So this is basically just Thanos with a ton of tech. Strange Supreme to just eat all the clutter. Of course, Mr. Fantastic First Steps, just a good card. Shadow King tech, Cosmo tech, Mobius tech, Enchantress tech. Goliath he has in here, Luna Snow, Mockingbird Thanos, but he also has a very funny card, and that's Red Skull. The reason that Red Skull is in this deck is to stop your opponent from beating you with a Cerebro. Because what does, Red Skull, what he does, obviously gives enemy cards here +2 power. So you are going to ruin their Cerebro because you're going to give all those cards in his lane a +2, which is now going to make them probably the focus of the Cerebro rather than the rest of it. And Cerebro is very prominent right now. Very, very prominent right now. In fact, I have a Cerebro 3 deck, which I've been messing around with a bit. It's also from Cam Best List, Bast, Gorgon, Jeff, Scarlet Witch, Sentinel, Cerebro, Mystique, Luke Cage, Cosmo, Juggernaut, Killmonger, and Mobius M. Mobius. So these Cerebro decks are very good. Although, watch tomorrow because we are getting the OTA. Are we getting it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow or is it Thursday? I don't know what day it is. It might be Thursday. But either way, they might do an adjustment to Cerebro. I would not be surprised because it is very, very, very strong right now. So if you're going to make it, play it quick because... And then, of course, we have Surfer. Now, this one's... I have to find a place for Human Torch because this particular list is Mr. Fantastic First Steps, Sam Wilson, Herbie, Brood, Captain Carter, Silver Surfer, Cosmo, Juggernaut, Makari, Elsa Bloodstone is in this, Copycat, and Gwenpool. But now I have to find a place, because you're going to want Human Torch in every Silver Surfer list, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing a lot of people playing with Surfer now. So those are just some of the decks I've played. I am at rank number, I'm at 83. I'm just about at 84. I'm 83, 6 out of 7. The Collector's Vault came out. I'm not even going to bore you with that because that is just hot garbage. We'll just look really quick at some. Obviously, we had a new album come out that is called Walk It, Talk It, Pocket. So it's Pocket. It's that Creative House Pocket. Their variants are kind of cool. I got 3 of them. I got Cosmo, Goose, and Scarlet Witch. Just because, again, I'm going to pull all these. Most of them are all the 700 variants. So I'll probably get most of these, if not all of them, free. You get a border to start off with, 2 mystery borders, which I got. And then you get a black cat emote where she's just kind of like posing there with her nails up in the air. And you have these little 3 dots coming out of her, the thought bubble. And then you could get a Blink Creative House Pocket on the track there. And then 2,000 collector's token at the end. So there's an Agony, there's a Black Cat, there's a Black Swan, Cosmo Goose, Hydra Bob, there is a Lady Sif, there is a Lockjaw, and Scarlet Witch, and then Squirrel Girl are all the ones in that album. So, and like I said, most of them are the 700 variant variety, I believe. Oh no, there's a couple 1,200 ones. Hydra Bob's 1,200, Black Swan's 1,200, Agony is 1,200. So there are a lot of 1,200 ones actually. So they're going to be they're going to be premium mystery variants. So I won't be getting those. I will pull Lockjaw and Squirrel Girl at some point in time, but yeah, so they're not all that. So my bad. But anyway, so that's a new album that's out. And then so there you go. Variants that I've gotten, other than those that I just mentioned, Goose, Cosmo, Scarlet Witch. I got the new 700 Spider-Man, the Symbiote Spider-Man one. And, of course, weekly occurrence. Newsflash. My iPad died. Shocker. Joe's iPad dies. Newsflash. What a surprise. What a shock. Right? What a shocker. This iPad, oh my God. I think it's the game, because my iPad's fine. Whenever I'm doing anything but playing this game on here, or doing something with the game on here, my iPad is perfectly fine. And it's got to be the game that's causing it to just crash. So once I get back to my screen here, righty. Let's look at the newest ones. So yeah, obviously Human Torch, which I got today. But the Symbiote Spider-Man variant, that's the John Boy Myers variant of that. I got the Human Torch, the one that's on the collection track. That's the Greg Hildebrandt and Tim Hildebrandt Masterpiece variant of the Human Torch, which looks very cool. I did get the Doom comic book variant, the What If comic book variant of Dr. Doom. What if Dr. Doom is pretty cool, so I now have that. That's by Rich Buckler and Bob McLeod. They're probably the guys that did the cover. I got a Claw variant, the combo break variant of Claw, which I don't have too many Claw variants. I got the Shang-Chi Venomized variant, which is badass. Oh man, the split on that is so amazingly cool. I did get that. I got the Korg Pandart Studio variant of Korg. And then I think the rest of them are from last week. Yeah. Yep. So there you go. That's where I stand with the variants and stuff like that, and where I stand in the game for the week. All right, guys, we are going to talk about Human Torch, Johnny Storm. Now, there was a Human Torch prior to Johnny Storm. That was an android who was in very, very early Marvel Comics. So, and I think we're going to be able to talk about him come the Android season, because I do believe that he is in it. So we will talk about the Android Human Torch then. So let's talk about the Human Torch Johnny Storm version. Okay, so first appearance of the Human Torch was Fantastic Four #1 in 1961, 8 years before I was born. That's insane. So this character's been out for 63 years. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, based on the original character by Carl Burgess. So that's probably the Android one, I'm guessing. He is, of course, human. Team affiliations, he's been with Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Future Foundation, Fantastic Force, a Herald of Galactus, Fantastic Four Incorporated, Avengers Unity Division. Notable aliases: Invisible Man. Abilities: Pyrokinesis, fiery form that enables flight, heat energy, and absorption. All right, so the Human Torch, Jonathan Lowell Spencer, or Johnny Storm, is a fictional superhero character in Marvel Comics. Writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby's reinvention of a similar previous character, the android Human Torch of the same name and powers, who was created in 1939. Holy. By writer-artist Carl Burgess for Marvel Comics' predecessor company, Timely Comics. That's the one that would fight the Submariner, Namor, back in the day. Like the rest of the Fantastic Four, Johnny gained his powers on a spacecraft bombarded by cosmic rays. He can engulf his entire body in flames, fly, absorb fire harmlessly into his own body, and control any nearby fire by sheer force of will. Flame on, which the Torch customarily shouts when activating his full body flame effect, has become his catchphrase. The youngest of the group, he is brash, impetuous, in comparison to his reticent, overprotective, and compassionate older sister, Sue, his sensible brother-in-law, Reed Richards, and the grumbling Ben Grimm. In the early 60s, he started a series of solo adventures published in Strange Tales. The Human Torch is also a friend and frequent ally of the superhero Spider-Man, who's approximately the same age. Yeah, they were always friends in the comics. You saw many team-ups with them over the years, and they were always very good friends because they were very close to the same age. In film, Human Torch has been portrayed by Jay Underwood in the unreleased 1994 film The Fantastic Four, Chris Evans in 2005's film Fantastic Four, and its 2000 sequel, Rise of Silver Surfer, and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Deadpool and Wolverine. He played Human Torch, of course, in that, yeah. Michael B. Jordan in the 2015 film Fantastic Four, and Joseph Quinn in the MCU films The Fantastic Four First Steps, Avengers Doomsday 2026, and Avengers Secret Wars 2027. So they're going to be the next couple of appearances by Human Torch. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, Johnny Storm is a re-innovation of Carl Burgos' original character, the android Human Torch, created for Timely Comics. Storm first appeared in Fantastic Four #1, cover dated 1961, established him as a member of the superhero team. In his plot summary for his first issue, Lee passed on to Kirby that the recently formed Comics Code Authority had told him that the Human Torch was only permitted to burn objects, never people. Over the course of the series, Johnny, being the little brother of teammate Susan Storm, aka Invisible Girl, was one of several sources of tension within the group. Additionally, he starred in a solo feature in Strange Tales, an 8-issue series, Human Torch, from September 1974 to November 1975. Reprinted stories from that solo feature, along with stories featuring the original android Human Torch. Later also saw a 12-issue series, Human Torch, June 2003 to 2004, writer Carl Kessel and penciler Scotty Young, and the 5-issue team-up miniseries Spider-Man and Human Torch, March through July 2005 by writer Dan Slott and penciler Ty Templeton. Human Torch was the permanent co-star of Marvel Team Up, but was dropped after 3 issues because the creators found his format too restrictive. He co-starred in 2 one-shot comics, Spider-Man and the Human Torch, by writer Tom Breland and artist Juan Doe, and Incredible Hulk and the Human Torch from the Marvel Vault, #1, previously unpublished story from 1984. Early life. Growing up in Glenville, New York, a fictional Long Island suburban town, Johnny Storm lost his mom due to a car accident from which his father, Surgeon Franklin Storm, escaped unharmed. Franklin Storm spiraled into alcoholism and financial ruin and was imprisoned after killing a loan shark in self-defense. Johnny was then raised by his older sister, Sue. Storm joined his sister and her fiancé Reed in a space flight in which cosmic radiation transformed those three and spacecraft pilot Ben Grimm into superpowered beings who would become the celebrated superhero team, the Fantastic Four. Storm with the ability to become a flaming human and the power of light, or power of flight, sorry, and the ability to project fire, dubs himself the Human Torch in tribute to the World War II era hero known as the Human Torch. In the Fantastic Four number 4, it is Storm who discovers an amnesiac hobo. I remember this story very well. Whom he helps regain his memory as the anti-hero Namor the Submariner. He lost his memory and he ended up in New York, and he ended up wandering around as like a vagrant. And he had a beard, and he had a really long beard and a mustache and stuff. And Johnny realizes who he is and uses his flame to literally shave off his beard. He can control his flame so he didn't burn him, and then finds out who he is. So he still has his memory loss and stuff like that, but then he ends up regaining it. So I remember reading that book. In the Fantastic Four number 4, it is Storm whom he helps regain his memory is the anti-hero Namor the Submariner. One of the 3 most popular heroes of Marvel Comics 1940s, forerunner Timely Comics, returning him to modern continuity. So that's how they brought Submariner back, was in that particular story. Though a member of a world-famous team, Storm still lived primarily in Glenville and attended Glenville High School. Here he thought he maintained a secret identity, although his fellow townsfolk were well aware of his being a member of the Fantastic Four and simply humored him. The series introduced what would become the recurring Fantastic Four foes, the Wizard and Paste Pot Pete, later known as the Trapster. In Storm's home life, Mike Snow, a member of the high school wrestling squad, bullied Storm until an accidental flare-up of the Torch's powers scarred Snow's face. Storm dated fellow student Dory Evans, although she eventually grew tired of his constant disappearances and broke off their relationship. After graduating high school, Storm enrolled at New York City's Metro College. There he befriended his roommate Wyatt Wingfoot. He also met the original Human Torch of the 30s and 40s around this time. Storm met and fell in love with Crystal, a member of the superpowered race, the Inhumans. Crystal! We know her in Marvel Snap. After their relationship ended, Crystal returned to her native city of Adelan and eventually married the superhero Quicksilver. Storm crushed, attempted to move on, finding that his high school girlfriend Dory Evans had married and had 2 children. Storm dropped out of college, but remained friends with Wingfoot, who often participated in the Fantastic Four's adventures. Storm eventually began a romance with who he thought was Alicia Masters, but was eventually revealed to be an alien from the shape-shifting Skrull race, Lyja. Posing as Masters, in the interim they married. Storm later discovers Alicia's true identity and that Lyja is pregnant with his child. He then witnessed Lyja's apparent death and rescued the real Alicia from the Skrulls. Storm briefly joined his nephew Franklin Richards' Fantastic Force team, where he battled his other dimensional counterpart, Vanguard, formerly Guard, G-A-A-R-D. Lyja posed as student Laura Green and dated Storm to stay close to him. Storm recognized her when they kissed, though he did not reveal this to her until later. Johnny is a very big Casanova. He's dated a lot of women in the MCU. Seeking an acting career, Storm was cast as the Old West hero, the Rawhide Kid. But producers reconsidered and gave the role to Lon Zelig, actually the alien Super Skrull. After working mostly in some television shows, Storm also spent some time as a firefighter at the behest of his former classmate Mike Snow. But when Snow moved away after his wife turned out to be a psychopathic arsonist and seemingly died, Storm left the job. He later returned to the profession during a period when the Fantastic Four was short on cash. Frustrated with her brother's directionless life and near disastrous pranksterism, his sister compelled him to become chief financial officer of the Fantastic Four. Infighting and betrayal resulted in a near catastrophe ending Storm's position. During a major battle with the supervillain and dictator Dr. Doom, Fantastic Four leader Reed Richards attempted to claim Doom's Latveria for the Fantastic Four, an act that alienated the U.S. government and his own team. This led to team member Ben Grimm's apparent death, and the Fantastic Four's subsequent dispersal. Storm took to fixing cars for a living. Grimm later was revealed to be alive. Over the internet, Storm meets a young woman, Cole, whom he learns is the daughter of one of the Fantastic Four's oldest enemies, the Wizard. After a confrontation with the supervillain who escaped with Cole, Storm remained hopeful of meeting her again. For a time, Storm became the herald of the powerful cosmic being Galactus, becoming the Invisible Boy after switching powers with his sister and teammate Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman. During Civil War, company-wide crossover, which superpowered community is split by the Superhuman Registration Act, which requires them to register with and become agents of the U.S. government. Storm and his sister allied with the underground rebels, the Secret Avengers. Shortly after, during the Secret Invasion company-wide crossover, the shape-shifting extraterrestrial Skrulls intensified their clandestine infiltration of Earth. Storm was briefly reunited with his former Skrull girlfriend, Lyja. Though part of the invading force, she finds she still has some feelings for him and does not carry out her mission of sabotage. She returns to her people, unsure of herself in any future relationship. Let's see here. Human Torch appears to die fighting a horde of aliens from the Negative Zone. Series ended with the following issue 588 and relaunched in March as simply Fantastic Four. Of Spider-Man, one of Storm's friends took his place on the team as requested by Torch's will. Later revealed that Human Torch was revived by a species of insect-like creatures that were implanted in his body by Annihilus. In an attempt to force Storm to help open the Negative Zone portal, Storm eventually escapes, and Richards determines Storm was on the other side of the portal for 2 years from his perspective. He becomes an ambassador within Inhuman Society and joins Steve Rogers' Avengers Unity Squad, helps Rogue in incinerating the telepathic portions of Xavier's brains, thus unknowing preventing Hydra from using it for their secret empire. Becomes a multi-billionaire when he inherits Reed Richards and Sue Storm's wealth and uses his money for rebuilding the Avengers Mansion and philanthropy. He is seemingly annihilated when he grabs a cosmic object called Pyramoids during the fight between Lethal Legion and the Black Order in Peru, but is restored after Living Lightning wins a high-stakes poker game versus Grandmaster. So there's a lot, and let's just go over. There's powers and abilities, of course. Cosmic rays exposed him to. He is, able to fly, envelop his body in plasma without harm to himself. He's able to fly because of that, thrust behind himself with his own flame, and generate powerful streams and balls of flame. Can also manipulate his flame in such a way as to shape it into rings and other forms, such as a fiery duplicate of himself that he can remotely control. Even when not engulfed in flame himself, Storm has the ability to control any fire within his immediate range of vision, causing it to increase or decrease in intensity or to move in a pattern directed by his thoughts. Additionally, he is able to absorb fire plasma into his body with no detrimental effects. Plasma field immediately surrounding his body is hot enough to vaporize projectiles that approach him, including bullets. He does not generally extend this flame aura beyond a few inches from his skin so as not to ignite nearby objects. Storm refers to his maximum flame output as his Nova Flame, which he can release omnidirectionally. Flame of any temperature lower than this cannot burn or harm the torch. This Nova effect can occur spontaneously when he absorbs an excessive amount of heat, although he can momentarily suppress or release the release when necessary with considerable effort. Demonstrated enough control with fire that he can safely shave another man's hair, like they just talked about with Namor. Romance. Been involved with several romantic relationships throughout the years, not limited but including the Inhuman Crystal, member in training and future Galactus Herald Frankie Ray, the Skrull agent Lyja, disguised as Alicia Masters, the Atlantean named Merida, Inhuman Medusa, and X-Men member Rogue. So he's had a lot of relationships. There's a bunch of different versions: Age of Apocalypse, Torch, Counter Earth, Earth 65, Earth 68, Earth A, Heroes Reborn, House of M, Marvel 1602, 2099, and the Mangaverse, Marvel Zombies, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Verse, Ultimate Marvel, Ultimate Universe, What If, and Another Medium. So he was in the Fantastic Four, 1967, voiced by Jack Flounders. That was the Human Torch. He was intended to appear in the new Fantastic Four, but was dropped due to rights and replaced with the series' original character, Herbie. Was meant to appear also in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends before Firestar was created in his place. I didn't know that. So that cartoon that had Iceman was supposed to have Human Torch as well. But Firestar took the place. Appears in Fantastic Four 1994. Voiced by Brian Austin Green in the first season and Quentin Flynn in the second season. Appears in Spider-Man the Animated Series, 3-part episode Secret Wars, voiced by Quentin Flynn. Appears in Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes, voiced by Christopher Jacot. Appears in Superhero Squad, voiced by Travis Willingham. Appears in Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, voiced by David Kaufman. Appears in Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and voiced by James Arnold Taylor. And then in film, we went over this. The 1994 Fantastic Four, played by Jay Underwood. Chris Evans in 2005. Yeah, we went through all this. Video games. He was in Quest Probe, featuring Human Torch and The Thing. Appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Appears in Spider-Man. Appears in Fantastic Four. Spider-Man, voiced by Duran Norris in Spider-Man 2000. Appeared in Fantastic Four, Flame On. Playable character in Fantastic Four 2005, voiced by Chris Evans. Additionally, his classic design appears in bonus levels, again voiced by Quentin Flynn. Ultimate Marvel incarnation of the Human Torch appears in Ultimate Spider-Man. Based on Chris Evans' portrayal, appears in Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Playable character in Marvel Nemesis. Playable character in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Playable character in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Playable character in Superhero Squad Online. Appears in Little Big Planet. Had no idea that one. Appears in Pinball FX2. Marvel Future Fight. Marvel Avengers Alliance. Avengers Battle for Earth. Marvel Heroes, voiced by Matthew Yang King. Lego Marvel Superheroes. Marvel Puzzle Quest. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. And downloadable playable character in Marvel Rivals. He appears in a daily radio adaptation of an early series issues of Fantastic Four, played by Bill Murray. Is that Bill Murray? Bill Murray? Oh my God, it is. Wow. Is in a radio. They used to do radio adaptations of comic books and stuff back in the day. That's cool. I didn't know that. Appears in the BBC radio adaptation of Spider-Man, voiced by Eric Myers. Merch. The Human Torch received an 8-inch action figure in Migos, World's Greatest Superheroes toy line of the 70s, which I loved. I had so many of those. Human Torch received an action figure in Series 2 of Marvel Legends toy line via the Fantastic Four box set. Human Torch received a figurine in the Classic Marvel Figurine Collection. Reception. Human Torch was ranked as the 90th greatest comic book character by Wizard Magazine. IGN ranked him as the 46th greatest comic book hero, stating that even though the youngest member of the Fantastic Four routinely basked in the glory of celebrity status, also proved himself in his many adventures with both Fantastic Four and Spider-Man. So there you go. A lot of stuff about the Human Torch. Let's get right over to the Marvel Unlimited app, and we are going to look up Johnny Storm himself. And we're going to type in the Human Torch. And there he is. Details on him in the app. After the loss of his parents, hot-headed teenager Johnny Storm found adventures on a failed space flight which granted him superpowers. Able to burst into flames and fly, he joined the Fantastic Four as the Human Torch. Now, there is an Ultimate version. So he, of course, is in all the Ultimate books. And there, of course, is the Jim Hammond version, which I'm not going to go over because we're going to get a card of him at some point. But in here, you can go back and read the Jim Hammond version because they have all of them from the 1940 to 1954. Man. Books in here from 2003, 2004, Human Torch series. Spider-Man Human Torch from 2005. Hulk, Human Torch and Hulk from the Marvel Vault from 2011. Human Torch Comics 70th Anniversary Special, which came out in 2009. Spider-Man in the Human Torch. He's in Marvel Meow. Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars Battle World. Fantastic Four, of course, annual. He's going to be in all the Fantastic Fours. 2003 series of Just the Human Torch. Invaders. Then the Android one dates back to 1939, and they're in the app, by the way. So if you really want to read some old comics, The Invaders from 1977, I remember reading this. This was a cool book. Again, the invaders were made up of Namor, Captain America, and the Human Torch. Now, I think, though, and I'd have to go back and read it, but I think this is the android Human Torch as well. So this, I don't think, is the Johnny Storm Torch. I often wondered why, back when I was reading these books, why he was faceless. Because the Johnny Storm one, many times you could see his face. But this Human Torch had no face. There's no eyes, there's no mouth. He had no features. And so that is the android one, which I did not know that. And then I found out later on. But in any case, I would suggest, again, if you are interested in reading about Johnny Storm or the original Human Torch, pick up the app. You could read all of this stuff. And some of the older books now are getting a little bit hard to get unless you get them from a trade paperback or something. So $9.99 a month. As I said, it is a very, very, very easy thing to spend money on and a good investment if you want to read all of this stuff. So, all right, we got new books. My pull list. Astonishing Spider-Man Infinity comic number 35 I will be reading. Imperial's out. Oh, man. I sent out stuff about this book on my Twitter and the actual cover. I didn't know it came out in the app. The app is behind, so it's been out in comics for probably about like 2-3 months, but now it's out in the app. Ooh, I definitely have to read it. It's a story that involves Nova and stuff like that, but I'm excited to read it. We've got Wolverine, Laura Kinney Wolverine. Issue number 5, we have Daredevil, which I read every week. Daredevil number 20, issue number 20. Star Wars Jedi Knights, issue number 2, which I do tend to read the Star Wars books. Amazing Spider, that's out too. The new, the kind of the reboot of Amazing Spider-Man is out. So number 1 of that series is out. So, oh man, I got reading to do. The pull list is big this week. Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider, issue number 12. Doctor Strange of Asgard, issue number 2. Incredible Hulk, I read this all the time regardless, so I'll have to read that one as well. Ultimates has Loki in it. That's up to issue number 11. Uncanny X-Men is issue number 13. Herbie's up to issue number 6. So yeah, there's some good stuff. Oh, I'm excited to read Imperial. That's supposed to be very, very good. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be probably one of my favorite ones to read from this upcoming week. So there you go. Go check out your local comic book store if you are near one to find all of this good stuff and learn more about these comic characters and why I really enjoy reading the books. All right, guys, we are coming to the end. And I know this one went a little long. I apologize, but that was because of my opening monologue and stuff like that I had at the beginning. But we are going to get into the MCU minute. And man, the Fantastic Four stuff is getting hot. There is a lot of people have seen the first half hour and the preview of the film. And I just saw the latest commercial where they're showing a little bit more about when the Fantastic Four have first seen Galactus, and they come back and the reporters there are saying to them, "How did you defeat Galactus?" And then all of a sudden you hear Ben speak up and say, "We didn't." And then they go into a little further detail, and they basically want to know what happened. And Reed says, we tried to bargain with him. And then they say, well, what happened? And he goes, the price was too steep. And then they say, well, what was the price? And he said, our child. And I'm like, oh. So now Galactus wants their son. And so you kind of now see where this is going. Now the classic story In Search of Galactus is very old, but this is coming more from the new stuff with their son, Nathaniel Richards, and how he ends up becoming Galactus later on in life. So Galactus probably knows this and wants to stop it, or he wants his power. But either way, oh man, I cannot wait to see this film. Oh my gosh. And I'm going in, was it 9 days? So I'll be seeing it next Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm going to the first showing that they have. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see this movie. And they have not even shown Galactus yet. You've seen bits and pieces, but I am so psyched to see this. This is going to be amazing. Amazing. But yep, let's look in and see if there's any other news. Forbes magazine has street-level MCU Spider-Man is now completely confirmed. For a while now, Spider-Man fans have been hoping that Tom Holland's MCU versions, after messing around with galactic battles and the multiverse, may go back to his roots, street level as it were. The friendly neighborhood version of New York, from New York, teaming up with other similarly located heroes. Now that finally appears to be happening with Spider-Man Reset Brand New Day. This has been hinted at for a while now. Among other things, Marvel confirmed that Spider-Man, despite being arguably the biggest franchise hero left, will not appear in Avengers Doomsday, as Tom Holland was not revealed in the infamous chair stream. A cameo, maybe, but a star, no. Then it was confirmed, surprisingly, that none other than Frank Castle, the Punisher, portrayed by John Barenthal, would appear in Brand New Day. While that's presumably a PG-13 version of the character, Punisher in NYC is about as street level as you get. Now, Tom Holland is talking about this pretty openly in a new interview with Flip Your Wig. And he says, we were really restricted with what we could do in the last movie because of COVID. Now we're really going to lean into old school filmmaking and shoot in real locations. We're going to use the streets of Glasgow for this massive set piece that we are putting together. There was a recent reporting Holland was in Scotland for the Odyssey, the Chris Nolan film he's leading, but that appears to have been for Spider-Man instead. In filmmaking, Glasgow is often used as a stand-in for New York City, which is easier to film than actual New York City is. Spider-Man went deep into the magic and multiversal with No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness. While it was very fun to see Toby and Andrew, returning to a more grounded version of the character is certainly welcome. Appearance of the Punisher also seems to open up some possibilities of other character collabs such as Daredevil or Jessica Jones. Johnny Storm actor Joseph Quinn from the upcoming Fantastic Four has already talked about wanting to shoot with Holland's Spidey, and the two have a long history in comics. It's not like Spidey not being street level hasn't worked out. No Way Home made almost $2 billion. His appearance in Avengers Infinity War is the most memorable moment of that film. It does feel like this hard reset, it's time for a change, however, even if yes, it is confirmed that Michelle and Ned are returning for the film, but Punisher, real-world set pieces, the reporter there says, sign me up. Okay, Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four, this is from Superhero Hype. The runtime is revealed. MCU movie is shorter than you thought. Runtime has finally been set, and the upcoming movie is set to be a bit shorter than previously anticipated. According to the listings of the movie that are up now on AMC's website, First Steps runtime looks to be 115 or an hour and 55 minutes. Total runtime clocks in 20 minutes under what previous reports suggested the movie would be, with earlier rumors pointing to a potential 2 hours and 10-minute movie. So there you go. So it is going to be shorter than originally said. So maybe they cut out some stuff. Comicbook.com has Marvel just introduced the next potential face of the MCU. The MCU has been throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Things are different now that most of the original Avengers are gone, with less popular characters have to step up. Despite being a list of C-Team characters, the Thunderbolts are now the new Avengers. They'll be in the spotlight when Doomsday hits theaters. They won't be alone, though, because Fantastic Four and a version of the X-Men are part of the proceedings as well, ensuring there's enough firepower to oppose Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom. Captain America's team will have a role to play. While his roster is still a mystery, it's sure to include at least one heavyweight in Thor. Having the Star-Spangled Man around is going to help everyone feel at ease. But Sam Wilson isn't going to hold the shield forever. At some point, we'll have to pass it on, and Marvel's already preparing for the moment. Marvel Comics operates differently. So this is in Marvel Comics. And said at any given moment, there could be multiple versions of the other heroes. Since Sam took up the mantle in the comics, Steve Rogers and his former partner both have their own shields. It isn't an issue because there's more than enough bad guys to go around. Well, another Marvel Comics character is throwing his hat into the ring in Chip Zdarsky and Valerio Chetti's new Captain America series. Tells a story, a new version of Steve's story, with him thawing out closer to modern day and having to navigate a strange world. It doesn't take him long to get back to business as usual, donning a new costume and setting his sights on a villain making trouble. However, he's not the only hero at the party. He meets David Colton, a soldier who joined the military in the wake of 9/11 attacks and took the super soldier serum. Having grown up in a less hopeful world, David has a different attitude from Steve, which is something the MCU can take advantage of if it brings the character to live action. So that's a comic thing. And maybe they'll use it somewhere down the road. And then let's see what else we got. This is a James Gunn one. It says James Gunn hilariously recalls inventing the MCU's Infinity Stone lore in 3 minutes. So this is an interview with Gunn. He says, when I wrote the scene with the Collector, explaining there was this explosion and the Infinity Stones were born and what they mean and where they came from, that was literally just me sitting down for 3 minutes and writing that. And that's then what became the rest of the Infinity Stones. There was never anybody that said anything other than, I think the red thing and the blue thing are going to end up being Infinity Stones. That wasn't in the plan to begin with. So there you go. And I had said that James Gunn did things for the space Marvel films. So, and then lastly, we have here, can go back to some Mephisto stuff. How powerful is Mephisto compared to Thunderbolt's Sentry? His power is explained. He's a master manipulator. Sweet talks multiple characters. Mephisto is able to talk both Parker Robbins, the Hood, and Riri Williams into making deals with him. Mephisto's display of powers in Ironheart, including him silencing a family with nothing but a stare. Mephisto can also open portals and read minds. Easily forces Riri out of her Ironheart armor with a hand gesture, and also jokes about how Dormammu is not on his level. And they're comparing him to Sentry. Sentry's kind of like Superman. See, it's a weird thing because of that, like, Superman not only had a weakness to kryptonite, but he had weakness to magic. So magic could hurt Superman. So if you're looking at it from that standpoint, I kind of think that, Mephisto, Sentry has god-like powers, but Mephisto's kind of a god, right? So I think if you put the two of them, personally, I think they may both have prominent roles in the future. Sentry we're obviously seeing in probably Doomsday and Secret War. And I think he's going to serve a very, very prominent role in that film. Because I think he's going to take the place of a certain character that is at the central part of that story. Now, I'm talking the 2015, 2016 one. But I think he's going to serve that part. And if so, going to make for very, very interesting things. And Mephisto, there are already rumors. Now they're rumors, but I'm holding out hope that this is gonna happen. They brought up a story called Damnation in comics, and if you haven't read it, it's all about Mephisto, Doctor Strange, Johnny Blaze, and they're already saying that they might be bringing a lot of those horror characters back to be in the same film together. It'd be interesting if they do the Damnation story and they could bring Sacha Baron Cohen back to play Mephisto in that. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for me for this episode of the podcast. I will be back with a OTA/patch review because they're doing both. So whenever that comes out, and I forget now, I can't remember if it comes out tomorrow or it comes out on Thursday. Today's the 15th. And now Kid Omega comes out tomorrow. So that will be out tomorrow. But I cannot remember now when they said they're doing this patch. I think it's the 17th. So I will be back whenever the patch comes out and whenever the OTA comes out to do a quick little podcast, an emergency pod, obviously, about the OTA and the patch. So listen for that. That will be out. And listen. Before I go, I hope you like the new stuff. And I let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on anything, really, the state of the game. Let me know your thoughts on whether or not you enjoy the stuff you're hearing on here, and maybe if it moves forward, and I do some different things. Let me know if there's anything that you personally would like to hear on the show. I would appreciate any feedback that you would have. And again, you can give that to me on Twitter, on Discord, my Snap Decisions Discord, or else I'm also on the Snap Judgments League Discord. And then, of course, I'm over on Blue Sky. Hit me up. Let me know. Always fun to hear from you guys and what your thoughts are and stuff like that as well. So, again, thank you for listening, no matter where it is that you listen from. And I will have my friend Jeff, by the way, is working on some things for my show for me. He is starting his own marketing business and also is doing some stuff to help out people with podcasts. So I am going to be running an ad that he gave me on my show. So kind of like a sponsor, like he's going to sponsor a little bit. And if you're looking to get into that type of thing or podcasting or anything like that, let me know. And I could certainly pass along Jeff's information to you. He does have his own. He's been working for other places and other companies, but he is trying to break out and start his own business. And so I would absolutely love to see him do that because he's very good at what he does. And it is called Empowered. Big capital letter E as his own logo, brand strategy and messaging. And it says craft marketing magic that touches hearts and sparks curiosity now. So that is his thing. And like I said, he does social media advertising, and it's www.empoweredmktmarketmedia. So mktmedia.com to learn more. And again, he has written here small business support, nonprofit marketing, and also engaging your audience. And he could, he does things to help out a brand, and also can, like I said, help you get started. He does have several clients that he does help out with podcasting. So I have the ad that he recorded for me, and I also have an ad that he made for me, which I'm going to gladly read at the beginning of my podcast and stuff going forward as well. So, guys, have a great rest of your week in Snap. Enjoy the week. Enjoy Human Torch. I hope you learned something today, a little bit about the character. Go read some comics. You won't be disappointed. And go see Superman. You won't be disappointed in that either because it's really, really good. All right, that is going to do it for me for this particular episode. I will talk to you all again on the OTA report that I will have coming out as soon as that hits along with the patch. Have a good week. Please stay safe. Be kind to one another always. And hopefully I'll talk to you all on the next episode of Snap Decisions. This is your Snap DJ signing off.